All right, weekly recap for I guess week 2 of November. This should be. Yeah, let's start out on dollar here. What did we have happen? We had a pretty chill week, so to speak, like not a big range. We kind of retraced down into this weekly gap, right? Which I had mentioned in the outlook. I was either looking for this weekly gap to hold, and then I'd expect bullishness, or if it closes below it, I expect that we might actually go all the way down to here, like being super bearish. Just based on the way, like, look at how low resistance these lows all are. Like this is ready to be eaten, bro. Like we have not, like look at this. Higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. This is like the first previous week low we've taken out in like 2 months last week with that push lower. So keep that in mind. Anyway, yeah, let's look at the daily chart. But here you can kind of tell why I said it was a chill week, because there's really not much going on. I'd consider this very much consolidation, right? Like rebalancing everything with wicks back and forth, not really going anywhere. We did not reach up into this daily gap. And I mean, yeah, there was no 4-hour setup either. Like obviously dollar can't have a setup, quote unquote, but like to the majors. But yeah, I mean, this price action is just pretty poor. So yeah, not much really happened on dollar, right? We didn't inverse the weekly gap. We didn't trade away from the weekly gap. We're just kind of hanging in the weekly gap at this point. So yeah, with that, majors obviously had a slightly bullish weekly candle. So euro has that one here, basically the same as dollar. A little more bullish, I'd say, right? Since we can see here, euro actually formed a daily bullish gap here, which dollar obviously didn't form a daily bearish gap, but yeah. And then on the other hand, we have pound. Now pound was actually pretty clean this week, because going into the week, right, we were focusing on pound over euro just because we had the weekly gap on pound and not on euro. And here, once again, the expectation was either we sell off from the weekly gap, or we, maybe use the weekly gap to get to the daily gap, and then the daily gap to continue higher, or we use the daily gap to get to the weekly gap and the weekly gap to continue lower. But through all that, with this purging of equal lows and draw into monthly internal and monthly SMT with EU, I'm leaning bullish on pound, right? Like from a high time frame perspective. So if we drop down to the daily chart, we can see here on Monday we run up above Friday's high, meaning we're in the weekly gap here. Then we sell off from that weekly gap and we reach into the daily gap, and then we long from the daily gap, reach back up into that weekly gap. And if you disregard Friday's candle, right, like this is super clean, and then Friday kind of just does nothing, but still, that was super clean. Looking at this, you could say, oh look here, 4-hour breaker, right? Surely that could have been a trade, but this was Tuesday, and Tuesday was a bank holiday, so we closed below on the bank holiday, meaning this is not a valid entry. And then the actual valid entry came a little later from the daily gap. I just have a little bit of it marked out here. So we draw down into the daily gap here on Wednesday, right? And initially we have this breaker, and we do have SMT, I mean this order block, and we do have SMT, right? But with this order block, the risk to reward is not what it should be, right? 1-to-1 into external, that's not what we're looking for. So we disregard that. And the next morning, we're watching, and then GU purges Asia lows and hard rallies here on London Open, right? Same time, EU leaves Asia lows and rallies hard as well. So I'm bullish. I'm looking at this as an order block now. I set my limit, right? Let me try and get this. Never mind. It doesn't perfectly aligned, bro. Oh my god. So yeah, I set this trade, right? Jesus, man. There you go. And we retrace almost to fill the entry, right? Here after we close above. And then we just run to where the TP would have been and the external. And there's no fill of the order block. So that was unfortunate. We didn't actually end up getting filled. But I guess the idea with the daily gap was pretty spot on, right? So that's cool. Anyway, that's majors, right? Indices, man, a bit chopped. The weekly gap we were looking for potential continuations from ended up, yeah, I'd say not offering that. We can drop down to the 4-hour chart here, and we can see that initially we had rallied to start the week, right? With this order block we were watching, and then we consolidated, retraced to the order block, but it wasn't just a retracement, it was a reversal targeting those lows. And yeah, so that's basically how the week went. We actually did form a bearish gap now to end the week, but we also have daily, or I guess weekly, consecutive candle SMT, where NQ purged previous week low, right? Yesterday, and ES didn't. But yeah, we do also have bearish daily gaps, and the weekly gaps were inversed on both now. So I'm ready to discard the weekly gaps for trade purposes, which isn't necessarily bad because I already took 2 L's trying to long that weekly gap, bro. So, you know. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at here. And then gold and silver, we actually saw a very nice rally to start the week, right? Finally breaking that consolidation, running higher. Silver, you know, primarily, right? Silver actually ended up running all the way into the weekly external. So that's pretty crazy. And then yeah, on Thursday we kind of reversed and started trading back lower, right? Retracing into that daily gap, which we reached into yesterday. Yeah, I mean, unfortunate, I guess, that we didn't fill the TP before then. Like, we're still in this gold trade, man. It was looking very promising, but yeah, now we're still stuck in here, but that's how it goes sometimes, I guess. And yeah, I mean, looking at this, other than that, like, we have, we have now high time frame SMT at the highs, and we respected this daily bearish gap right here. So, you know, it's not looking too hot, but yeah, I mean, that's more outlook talk, I guess. But anyway, at least we kind of broke out of the consolidation on gold, so like, I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything's better than this kind of price action. So yeah, also respecting that daily gap so far. We did also, however, trade all the way down to the daily gap low on pound. Silver is kind of more what you'd want to see, right? Where like the lower portion is still unfilled. But yeah, I mean, that's just what we're looking at right now. But yeah, I mean, that's the weekly recap. So that's all there is, really. And yeah,